Hey, what's up, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm going to get straight to the point, guys. I really am trying to practice on connecting and making these videos. And as much as I like to ramble on and say the things like if I was talking to a person in front of me, I do realize this is a video and people are busy. I don't know where you particularly may live, but if you live in a city, you don't have that much time. You barely have enough time for a 10-minute video. All right, and I know my videos could go over 10 minutes sometimes. Um, if you live out in the woods, God fucking bless you. God bless you, because I'm kind of jealous. So, anyways, the topic that I'm going to be talking about, it's you're going to see it on the thumbnail. It says, "Why did I leave the black church?" And what a way to start a series! What a way to start a series, because I just got back from a family vacation over this last weekend, and just being finding yourself strangely enough to kind of feel like you don't know what to do around different ethnicities and different families, different cultures, when I'm used to living the way that I have been living for the last 13, 14, 15 years, right? And I am married to a black woman, okay? She's not African American. I'm not going to be playing that political bullshit, okay? She's black. That's all I know. And that's how she goes by as well. At least with me, she does. She tells the other people out there in the outside world that she's African American, and it's cool. Like, hey, I just keep it simple for me. I'm the only racism that you're gonna get out of me is I'm gonna be triggered by some of the things that they say. You know, like they really do think that they're the fucking. Anyways, you know what? I'm going off talk. My bad. So for the first 16 years of my life, since birth, I was raised under a Catholic structure. Okay, my mom had even put us. My mom was heavily devoted into Catholicism more than my dad was. My dad, I don't know what the fuck he did, but he did believe to God. He did believe God to a certain extent, but I just don't know how he went about it. So my mom put me and my brothers in Catholic school for 2 years, seventh grade, during my seventh grade and during my eighth grade, and yeah, we went through all that. We went through the first communion, and I don't remember like how the structure goes, because by the time I had turned 16, actually, which is funny, I should say the first. Let me. I don't want to confuse y'all. So when I turned 16, I was in juvenile hall, and I had spent. Let's see, how much was this time? It was about 3 to 4 months. 3 to 4 months in a juvenile hall. That was the first time I decided to read the Bible from cover to cover. And I read through the shit. Like, I basically skimmed through the whole shit, right? But I was a pretty quick learner. Like, I was able to pick up on words. I made sure that I read every word, page page by page, every word, all the way to the end. Then when I turned 17, I got myself into trouble again. I spent a year in juvenile hall, and I read the Bible again for the second time from cover to cover. So I say that because when I came out of juvenile hall, I decided to go to a Christian church. And my mom was not having it. My mom thought that I fucking I walked away from her traditions, and I understand how that may come across, but whatever. I don't care. I'm a grown adult now, and we already had this discussion. When I came back out, one of my old counselors. He's a black dude, big and buff, well spoken, very soft tone, and he told me that he's a pastor at a very local church right up the street from where my mom lived. So while I was living with my mom, I would sometimes walk up to the church, and I would be there on Wednesday nights. On Thursdays, they may have some activities as well, depending who's running it. But I was always there for mainly just Bible studies and the occasional Sunday church services. I was never into Sunday services. I was never into that. The whole singing, the fucking praising and all that shit, standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down, like it's like a fucking parade. I can't stand that shit. I really cannot stand that shit. I don't know how the fuck people think that this really wins God's favor, that you do this on Sunday and then every other day you just like to cuss people out, like that shit doesn't make any sense to me, but it does to them. So I don't have that argument with them no more. But eventually I ended up joining a men's group within a black church. And I have been with a black church for about 12 and a half years. 12 and a half years. The first 2.5, it was a mixture of things, the Sunday services, the Bible studies, and this and that. But the same pastor who invited me to go to church was the same one who suggested to check out the men's group. And I have pictures of me and the guys, and I'm the only one who's non-black, and I stand out like a sore thumb. Seriously, like I stand out like a rusty, crooked nail. And but they always treated me like family. At least that's how it was from the beginning. That's how it was from the beginning. Now, what I noticed and what I learned through hard times is that if you have an unpopular opinion, you're gonna get outed out. You're gonna be an outcast with these guys, and especially if you're not black, if you're not a brother, they have a subtle way to let you know that you can't talk like that. So once this whole Trump administration first started coming around and more police videos of black people dying under the badge and this and that. So, mind you, the problem that I had was this. It wasn't the fact that these things were actually happening, and I understand more now than I did back then that people take these things very serious. But what was going on during that time, and this is how I took it, was that the church that I was attending to for the men's group, it was in a nice neighborhood. It wasn't ratchet, it wasn't urban, but we did have little pockets here and there. If you travel north from the church about a mile, or no, maybe just a mile. If you travel just 1 mile north from the church, that's when you start running into pockets of gangs, neighborhoods, trap houses, and just, you start seeing some of the stuff that we're trying to get away from. Most of my struggles, or most of my troubles was with black dudes. Okay, I got down more with black dudes than I did with Hispanics, and I have got down with Hispanics. It is what it is. I don't give a fuck. Like, it's cool. And I lost a lot of most fights I lost with black dudes than I did with the Hispanics. And to keep it real with you, I didn't even get into that many fights. But the fact that I was hanging out with the wrong crowd that would annoy the fuck out of another group, I was caught up in the mix. And for some strange reason, for whatever reason, I was the one mostly being picked out of the group when it was fucking obvious it was the other knuckleheads behind me who did the fucking nonsense. So, but yeah, I got jumped. We've been jacked. Most of the ugly fucking shit that was done within the neighborhood, most of the shit that I know of was done by black people. But in a black church, in a black setting, they don't really address their own problems. They don't admit, maybe like it's always like one or two individuals that will say something like that. They will kind of project like just a little bit on the accountability side, like, hey, I know what our people are doing this and that. And I listen. I want to. I stand. I stay there just to see everybody's reaction. But the majority prevails, and they say, no, no, no. There's real racism out there. They're coming after us. Whatever, whatever. And I'm the only non-black person in the group who feels like I would appreciate it if they would at least admit that their own people, their own little black subgroups are going around doing the nonsense. And some of those individuals, some of those bad individuals who go out there doing bad things, wind up going to the same churches that I was going to or that they go to. And so we see these people at church, and it's like, okay, well, anyways, but there was just a lot of controversy, and I, I just felt out of place. I felt out of place. And I'm only touching on just the racial side of things. I haven't even got to the biblical side of things yet. And once we get down on the Bible, on the biblical side, you always get these individuals in there that make it a habit to make it a racial thing, to correlate Jesus with like being black, as if black people were the first people on earth, you know. And as a Urantia book reader, I don't believe that shit. You know, black this, black everything. Everything to them is like, it has to be black, right? And the problem that they don't understand is they exclude themselves. They're the ones who make white people look really bad. And let me just be clear. I have seen white racism. I have seen it. When I used to work out there in Arizona during the pandemic, the shit that the fucking things that I've come across, I'm like, this is only Arizona. I can only imagine what it's like if I go to Arkansas, if I go to Mississippi, if I go to Tennessee. I can only imagine. I can only imagine what racism is when I get a little bit deep further into these fucking woods. But even the racism that comes from white people, they generalize their superstition. They don't say that it's mainly black people. They'll say stuff like it's Hollywood, or it's the politics, or it's this, it's that. But they do kind of like bond themselves. I noticed that, and at least within their groups, kind of like with the black groups as well, is that they'll welcome anybody who agrees with that ideology and wants to identify themselves with that group. And likewise with me, from the very beginning, I wanted to identify myself as a brother within a brotherhood. I really did. And this is the one group, the black church group that I was going to for 10 years, that I was part of for 10 years. They made me feel like I was somebody. And I want to say maybe like around the fourth year, things started to kind of change. And it wasn't an easy transition for me, because then we started having more individuals coming in, and they start I'm not a big fan of doomsday scriptures. So when a pastor comes from out of fucking nowhere, and he claims he has this many years of being out there in Cuba or out here in the islands, and he has seen so many things that he believes why everything in the book of Revelation makes sense, then I'm like, okay, well, shit. And in my honest opinion, because I have been out of the country a couple of times, I do kind of agree with him, but I'm not going to agree with how everybody wants to clamor around him just because he's a pastor. And see, that's the thing. Black people, just like with anybody else, I guess, but the black people do this shit the most. And white people. I'm going to call white people out too. They honor the fuck out of anybody who says they're a priest or they're a pastor, you know, this and that, right? Like pastors and priests are like next to Jesus, or just one fucking stair step below Jesus. And that's where things get a little dangerous for me because whatever these motherfuckers say, the whole crowd will believe that shit. And I had to start challenging pastors. Let me rewind just a little bit. From the day that I have found the Urantia book, and when I started reading the Jesus papers, I was going back to these Bible studies on Wednesdays, and I would hear people try to give an explanation about certain events here and there that made me kind of question things because they look at it from just a Western biblical viewpoint as if everything was clean back then, but it fucking wasn't. It just wasn't. Shit was wild back then. It was fucked up. Laws to protect women's rights were not created, and they would not honor that back then. Jewish people don't honor shit like that, but I heard they do. Some Jewish people, some groups actually do honor the liberty for women. Um, but yeah, like I would throw like a little a little piece of information out there, see how they react to it, and I'm not always successful with trying to enlarge people's concepts of what they think how the Bible looked like. To them, I'm if I'm not a pastor, if I'm not an instructor, I just come across rude and obnoxious. And I get it. I do. I get it. I've had that happen to me too with other individuals. So I totally understand that. But as the years went on and I started seeing more people hang on to what these other doomsday pastors like to preach about, that's when things started to really affect me. And I started having shouting matches with the said pastors, and I would quickly get outed out because, like I said earlier, to these people, anybody who comes across like anybody who says he's a pastor or he knows this, he's been reading the book for so many years and this and that, like, yeah, yo, I can't win against that. And I was fighting a losing battle, yeah, I was fighting a losing battle all throughout all these years I was losing. I just kept taking L's. And then I realized towards the end when people start saying things like, oh, you know, he's out of line, he's out of pocket, he might be a little foo-foo, yo, he's pointing out certain characteristic traits in the church, I don't know what's his problem, blah blah blah. See, that's when I'm like, okay, it's clear you motherfuckers don't like me. It is what it is. And you know what? The last day the very last day that I had kept in contact with them was really ugly because I had to videotape me burning a Bible and cussing everybody out, and I was yeah I was just on some fuck shit. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, by the way, burning Bibles is probably one of my favorite things, to be honest with you. Yeah, I am a little bit out of pocket. Yeah, so yeah, 10 10 years of being with a black group, what I can say is this. At least Christian groups go out and do the deed. I have not seen a Urantia group go out together and start reaching out to people. It's just we're all lone wolves, all of us. But I also have noticed a lot of fuck shit within the Urantia book community, mostly online, and that's something that I'll talk about some other time. But I just thought I could share this about my experience being with a black church, and yeah, I had to leave once I started making it. Once I had made the wholehearted decision to actually be a Urantia book reader, that's when my relationships with others got more complicated and it got really rough. And not just to attack Christian peoples. Like I'm not really like attacking them like that. Like I'm not really. It's not just them. To be honest with you, I have been around Jewish people, and I just feel some type of way around them too. Um, I really don't get too involved with people anymore. In my mind, I'm constantly talking to God. Constantly, constantly. I have days when I talk. I have days. I have moments when I think about gaming. I'm thinking about working out. I'm thinking about martial arts. I'm thinking about jokes. I'm thinking about my kids. I'm a normal human being, but for the most part, there's a part of me that really wants to grow on a spiritual level, and I like to surround myself with people who know more and more, and not. I'm gonna repeat myself, and not recite the shit from the Bible like if you know what the fuck you're talking about. Because if you did know what the fuck you're talking about, you can expand a little bit more without having to use the quotes from the Bible and just rely on that. So that's always been my problem, because a lot of times people do resort to the Bible and they say things like the Bible has all the answers. Answers to what? Because I have a lot of questions that need answers, and the Bible doesn't have the answers for those questions. And they are legit answers. I mean, they are legit questions, but I'm not getting the answers to the Bible. And I'm not going to get into details with that either. Like I said, I can ramble on and on and on and on and on. I like this. I like making these videos. For the first time, this will be the day that I'm going to start coming out, start telling you guys more about my true nature, so that you guys don't have to feel like you're doing all this by yourself. The biggest problem that I see within the Urantia book community is that they like to hide behind the Urantia book. They don't like to come out and tell you who they really are, what they've gone through, how they found the book, and this and that. We can all, like, it's best for me to just get to know each other first before we can get into this. It's one good thing that we found the Urantia book, and we have that in common. But then your opinions might be way different than mine, and I don't want to be offended if I say something that I normally say and you have a problem with it. But anyways, like I said, I'm gonna stop the video right now. You guys have a good day. I appreciate you watching. Oh, oh, sorry, that was a phone call. All right, I'm gonna stop here. Peace.